I grew up in the bustling city of Kuala Lumpur. My childhood is filled with memories of magical aromas and intense Malaysian flavours that flowed out of my mother's kitchen. While I now call Australia home, my taste buds are still quintessentially Malaysian. Malaysia is the cultural melting pot of Southeast Asia. It's a place where Chinese, Malay and Indian cultures collide to create this unique fusion that is Malaysian cooking. Simple, fast and generally inexpensive. With a little bit of know-how, it's easy to create authentic Malaysian recipes at home. Now, the Indians play quite a big influence in the cuisine of Malaysia, and one of my favourite way they do vegetarian dishes is in curries. So today we're going to explore a Malaysian Indian curry. It's a potato and chickpea, so perfect for you vegetarians out there. We'll start with making the spice mix. There's something quite romantic about making your curry from scratch, and while, yeah, there are some great sort of cheats out there in terms of paste, there's nothing like the smell of fresh curry paste sort of permeating through your kitchen. We're starting off with some red chilies. If you don't want it to be as spicy, you can always remove the seeds of the chili. We've got some ginger. We'll just take about 2 centimeters worth. So the older the ginger, the more fibrous it is, and I want to try and get that ginger that's not too fibrous, so it's a bit more forgiving when you're actually pounding it all in a spice paste. With making the spice paste, you can always do a food processor or you can use a mortar and pestle. I don't mind either way. I think mortar and pestles are great to let out your frustrations. It's fantastic, but if you're running out of time, you can always use the electrical appliances. I've just put in some garlic and I'm putting in some Asian shallots. This is really lovely. You just want to make sure there's enough lubrication when we process the ingredients, because otherwise you'll be struggling a little bit. Now I'm cutting up some lemongrass. Lemongrass to me is quite citrusy. I love the smell of lemongrass through paste. We've got some spices here we're going to add. We've got some coriander seeds, about a tablespoon's worth. We've got some turmeric, some cumin and some white pepper. Now, the last ingredient before we add a little bit of oil, we've got some candle nuts. So candle nuts, we use them as a main ingredient for a lot of our curry paste in Malaysia. A good substitute for candle nuts are macadamia nuts. And it smells great. Now we are going to fry up the spice mix. This is just vegetable oil. Just fry this. And this smells really good. So we want to fry this for about a couple of minutes. So while that's frying off, let me introduce you to the other ingredients. We've got curry leaves. Curry leaves are great. They literally, if you rip them and give them a smell, they smell like curry. I would pick them and actually use them in curry straight away. Or if you want to pick them and put them in a refrigerator to dry, they last for months. And I love, love, love curry leaves. We've got some cloves and some cardamom here. So iconically sort of an Indian ingredient. So the cloves, the cardamom, it marries really well. We've got a cinnamon quill. We've got galangal as well. So galangal looks like ginger. They just have a little bit orange hue in terms of the skin. It's not as spicy as ginger per se, so it's a little bit more aromatic and a little bit more citrusy when it comes to the flavour. Just grate into that straight away. And you can smell it really permeate through. It's really lovely. That's perfect. We'll put some cloves and cardamom as well. To that we're going to add, oh, you can smell that. Fantastic. Just a bit of vegetable stock. Right, we're going to put the curry leaves in. Smell amazing. Now, kaffir lime leaves, I'm just going to tear them roughly. And the cinnamon quill too. That can be simmering for a while we do the potatoes. So I've got kipfler potatoes here, and you can use whatever potatoes you like. I don't usually peel the skin. Just give it a good wash, just to get the dirt and the soil off. And I'll put that in the curry. And if you want the curry to sort of cook quicker, just make sure, really, once your potatoes are tender, the curry's done. So make sure you cut the potatoes varying in size. So if you want them to cook quicker, cut it smaller. Now we've got that lemongrass stalk. I usually just trim the top and just give it a good crack. And we're going to add that in. We've got coconut cream, about 2 cans. Now, it's good practice every time you use coconut milk or coconut cream, add a good pinch of salt because that does bring out the flavor. So this is a pandan leaf or Asian vanilla, very, very aromatic. It's used a lot in desserts to sort of flavor a lot of the rice puddings, for instance. But it's also used when you cook coconut rice. We are going to add that into the curry today because I love the flavor that comes out of the pandan. Just let that simmer. We'll add a little bit of palm sugar. So palm sugar, lots of different variations. This is light brown palm sugar. We just need a little bit, and they're available in a lot of the grocery stores, your local supermarkets. So you can see there's quite a bit of heat in the spice paste, but there's also a lot of sweetening agents. So we've got the sugar there, and we've got the cinnamon, and we've got the pandan, so that gives it a lovely sweet note to the curry. Now that needs to simmer for 20 minutes, covered, and then we'll come back to it. It's been simmering for 20 minutes. Now we'll add some chickpeas. If you are using fresh chickpeas, soak them overnight, or you can use canned chickpeas, just make sure they're well drained. Now that needs to cook for a further 10 minutes, covered, and then we're done. Perfect. Now I would serve this with some roti. So roti, you can make it yourself, or they do sell a lot of frozen versions that you can just warm up in the oven. If you don't feel like roti, you can always serve this with a nice bowl of rice, or as I call it, the student version, you can just serve it with a piece of toast. Trust me, it works just as well. Now, I hate to sound cliche, but this is curry in a hurry. You have to try this at home. Not unfamiliar to the food scene, or the Malaysian food scene, is Jackie M, who we have today joining us. Now, Jackie, you're going to make us dessert.
Yes, and this is so simple. Anyone can do this at home.
Oh, I love it.
And you know sago, you can pick them up at Asian grocery stores. They're like $1, $1.20 a packet.
Fantastic.
Okay, and all we want is some gula melaka. This might throw some people off. This is what we call gula melaka, but the dessert that we're making is also called gula melaka because this type of sugar basically is made famous by Malacca, which is one of the southern states in Malaysia.
And it's quite richer than your average palm sugar, right?
That's right, that's right. It's got a beautiful caramelly flavor. If you can't find this, you can just use, I guess, brown sugar. And in the meantime, we've got some hot water going, and we're just going to quickly throw some sago in there. So, Alvin, go for your
So,
lunch.
how long would you cook this for?
We're going to gently stir this for about 5-10 minutes or so, and then we're going to turn the heat off and put the lid on and let it sit for another 10 minutes.
There's a myth that people think, like, for sago, you have to soak it overnight and it takes a long time.
No.
You know, so it's really quick and really easy, and who doesn't like sugar?
Exactly, I know. Everybody
Fantastic.
loves this dish, I promise you. Now, I'm going to just dissolve the palm sugar. And we're going to throw these in. And depending on the amount of water in it, it will determine how thick and treacly or how runny it is. You're going to remember when it cools down, it's going to thicken up a little bit more, sort of thing. So you don't want it
like
too
toffee.
thick at first. Yeah, it'll be like toffee when you try and take it out later on. So let this simmer. And in the meantime, we've got some coconut milk over here. I'm just going to warm this through and add a pinch of salt to it, just to give it that little kind of like nice.
Yeah, I usually do. I usually add a pinch of salt when you add coconut milk, and I think that sort of tempers the creaminess a little bit as well.
Yeah, and also it helps bring out the sweetness in the gula
absolutely.
melaka as well, I think.
This is very familiar to me. We used to eat this a lot in Malaysia, and even some Malaysian restaurants around are serving this as well. Now you can make it at home. It's very, very simple.
Yeah.
Is that sago done?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic.
It looks perfect.
Thanks, Jackie.
I'm just gonna let you strain it. So usually you would run this under cold running water.
Right.
Like pour it into a sieve and then just have cold running water over it.
Oh, look at that.
We're just going to, I know, right?
So I'll take a couple of scoops.
Yep, that's
And then we'll
great.
we'll wash it down with water, yeah?
Yep, you want some cold water. And my palm sugar syrup, gula melaka, is completely dissolved. I'm just going to sweeten it a little bit more because palm sugar generally is actually less sweet than regular sugar.
Right.
So I'm just going to turn off the heat.
Just keep washing this.
Yep, keep
so
washing.
the idea of this is to wash the starch down,
Yeah,
is that
wash the
correct?
starch down and just cool it down as well. And once you've gotten the water out, we're just going to tip it into this glass bowl here.
Right, and we are going to cool this down completely?
Yes, we are. In the fridge, only for about an hour or so. And we're going to let the palm sugar and the coconut milk just cool down before we use it. Looking good?
Yes. So do you want me to put that onto the
Yep,
bowl?
let's do it.
Okay, so this should come off fairly easily, yeah? So how would you just tip that?
Yep,
Oh, wow.
yep. Let's see, it comes off quite easily. We didn't even have to oil it or anything like that.
Yeah,
Just
it's quite gelatinous, isn't it? I
Yeah.
love this texture. So if I tip it, it's like the moment
fingers
of truth.
crossed. Oh, beautiful. Be easier if you're doing smaller molds too,
Yes.
just for the record. Okay, let's put the coconut milk sauce over it. Okay, we're gonna put some of the palm sugar syrup, cooled down of course, over it. That's your gigantic.
I know. No, you almost feel like a kid again, like every time I smell that syrup.
I know, it's nice,
it's
huh?
like lolly water for us. Back in, okay.
Giant serve.
Oh.
Nice, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, that is so addictive. 3 ingredients, 1 superstar. And you.
Yep, 4 superstars.
Ayam masak merah is what we're making today. Now, ayam masak merah literally means red cooked chicken. It's a traditionally Malay dish from Peninsular Malaysia. And it's, as the name suggests, it's fairly spicy. Tone it down. Don't add as much chili as I do, but then I love chili. I can eat it breakfast, lunch and tea. So let's start cooking. We've got some chicken thigh fillets. Now they've been cut fairly chunky. I like them sort of a bit sizable chunks. Now if you're picking chicken, try and go for free-range chicken. Give the chickens a chance. I always do. And we're going to marinate this and then we'll keep going. So we've got some chili powder. Oh, look at that color. About 1 tablespoon. Then we'll add about half a tablespoon of turmeric. So gives it that lovely golden color. And to that, we're going to squeeze in some lemon juice. Just about half a lemon juice is fine. Just squeeze that in. And this gives it that lovely sort of tang. And we're going to let that marinate for about half an hour. If you want to, you can marinate it overnight. And the idea of marinating really is the flavors to get to know each other, to permeate the protein. And when you sort of fry it or when you cook the meat, you get a lot richer sort of flavor. Now, as you can see, the chicken's turning red already and I didn't have to cook it even. Right, that stays there for a bit while we make the rest of the ingredients. So we've got a mortar and pestle here ready for some pounding. Love mortar and pestle. With a lot of style of cooking, especially with Malaysian cooking, it's all about touching and feeling the food. I think it's great that we've got, food processors and stuff like that. But I think nothing beats traditional sort of, pounding of the mortar and pestle. Mum used to do chili paste from scratch with the mortar and pestle, and I think there's something quite romantic about the sound of that. Right, we're going to mix that together. Before we do, we're using lemongrass again, so always use the white portion of the lemongrass. I'm only going to use a little bit. Lemongrass gives the paste a wonderful citrusy aroma, like a little bit of a tone, which we love. And don't throw away the green stalk. You can always use them to flavour rice or flavour teas. So let's give that a good bash. Okay, now that I've taken out my frustrations on the ginger, garlic and lemongrass, we're ready to cook. Now we've got oil here getting ready to warm up, and the right temperature for deep frying is about 180 degrees. So we'll fry the chicken. So we'll let that sort of cook for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then we'll drain them. Now that's ready to be drained, so we'll just pick them up and drain them on a paper towel. Now you can see the golden colour that the turmeric gives it. I love turmeric. It's very earthy in terms of flavour. If you don't like chicken, you can always use other protein. Chicken here is very, very traditional. Ayam, of course, is chicken in Malay. Now we're going to decant most of this oil. We only want to reserve about 1 to 2 tablespoons in there to use it to fry the rest of the ingredients. Now this, to me, is a cheats version of chili oil. So you can reuse oil, but no more than once or twice in my books. And you can reserve this oil because look at the colour, it's just gorgeous. And there's already spice infused in it. So we've got about 2 tablespoons of oil there. Now we're going to fry the remaining ingredients. We've got here cinnamon and star anise. They feature quite a lot in Malaysian cooking, and I believe it's a little influence that we got from Indonesia. So Malaysia's an interesting spot geographically, and in terms of spice, the spice road as well. And I think it's fascinating because you get influences from Indonesia, which is where you get things like the star anise and cinnamon too. But then if you go further up north in the peninsula, you sort of get a lot of influence from Thailand. So a lot of the cooking up north is a lot sweeter, you know, more sort of lemongrassy sort of flavour, a lot more sugar involved, palm sugar especially. We'll fry that until it's nice and aromatic, and then we're going to add half a brown onion. So this has been sliced thinly. And we want to fry that about a minute or 2. So we've got the pounded paste that we did earlier from ginger, garlic and lemongrass. We're going to add that in. Oh, smells amazing. Right, so again for another 2 minutes. And we'll reintroduce the chicken back in there so then it can get to know the rest of the flavours in the wok. Chicken goes in. Now, while that's sort of cooking, we've got some tomatoes. So these are just your ordinary red tomatoes. We're going to roughly chop them. And this gives it that lovely acidic sort of flavour. That's fine. We'll throw that in. Mix that through. Now, what is a good Malaysian dish without coconut milk? We're going to add about 250 mils coconut milk. Now, this gives it that lovely creamy flavour. Now, so far, you're thinking, where's the red? So the red's in the tomato, but wait. We're actually adding sambal oleh. So sambal oleh is chili paste. You can get them in bottles anywhere. They're readily available in your local supermarkets or Asian grocery stores. We're adding a little bit, probably about 2 tablespoons. And again, if you're a bit chili shy, maybe add a little bit less. I'm not. Just quietly. And now we're going to just sprinkle a little bit of sugar. About a teaspoon. This smells so good. So we've got that, some color with some coriander leaves. To the top. Maybe a bit more. Perfect. Now this goes really well with rice. I love it, but you can try it with bread. It's an alternative to curry. It's a lighter version of a curry, so give it a go.